and welcome to another episode of the Mind Management Mentors. If it's in mind, it can be managed podcast. We're going truly international today. Before we actually, I'm going a little bit blind on this one because we've literally talked for 60 seconds before we've pressed record. But I'm a big believer in let's just see where the chat goes. But off the top of the what we talked about, I can see why your team wanted to get you onto the Mind Management Mentors podcast, which is fantastic. Introduce yourself, tell everybody what you do and why you're here.
Yeah, hello everybody. Great to be on your show, Cuddy. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, my name is Dr. Fred or Fred Moss or Fred, and some people still call me Dr. Moss. I'm a psychiatrist. I've been a psychiatrist in the United States here for a little over 36 years. And prior to that, I was in mental health for another 9 years as a child care worker. So about 45 and a half years since January of 1980 was my seniority date. And really, I've been helping people with their mental health long before that. And so I kind of tripped into that after dropping out of college a couple times. College didn't work for me. I started as an engineer. I didn't even know what an engineer was, but I had good math scores. So I got into the University of Michigan on that. And I thought he was the dude on the back of the train or something, but I guess not. It was something like really learning how to be an engineer. That didn't work out for me. I dropped out and went across the country to find my life in California. And I had a pretty good summer in California, non-sustainable, but a good summer, and came back. And my family had convinced me that there was this new industry that I would probably do very well in. You might have heard of this industry. It's called computers. And they thought, yeah, you probably have the aptitude for that. And it's like, okay, I'll go try, see what that is. So I went back to school at Michigan, COBOL and Fortran and computer science. We had a computer building, basically. The computer was like a 2-acre facility, and it was like in the middle of the campus. And it was the only one of its type in all of Michigan. So there I was back on Ann Arbor's campus and doing my best to see if computers would work for me. But batch jobs and punch cards and stacks, I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this either. This is not the rest of my life. It's all fun. It's interesting. I like it, but no, thanks. And so I dropped out again. And this time, my mom was cool. I told my mom that I was never going back to school again under there's no conditions that I would go back to university. And she's like, "That's good. You don't have to go back, but you do have to get a job." Mom,
really?
A job. So, she got me some applications, civil service jobs in Michigan, and as I had already mentioned, one of them was as a child care worker in a state hospital for adolescent children, I guess adolescent children. And then anyway, a state hospital for adolescent boys is where I worked. I worked on the boys unit, and I took that job. I signed up and I got hired, and it was like 3 weeks of orientation before we actually had to go up to the floors. So I get paid full time for 3 weeks to doodle and just kind of hang out in this group in a conference room and like 3 paychecks. Dude, I had no intention of the 4th week working out for me. On that 4th week, I'm out of here. I got my 3 paychecks. I can go buy myself a car, drive around the country, figure out what my life is about again, and just go from there. But on the 4th week, my friend Paul convinced me to come up to the floors with him because he made up some story about if I quit, then he'll have to quit and his family will suffer. Whatever the hell he said. I don't know what he said, but he convinced me to stay for another week. And we went up to the 4th floor and I white knuckled it all the way in there. It was like, 17-year-old boys, like 5 years younger than me, way tougher than me, way scarier than me. He's locked up, the whole thing. And I was like, wow, I made it through the day. I remember that Monday like it was yesterday. And it's like, well, I couldn't go back tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow, And then I started doing this with the full impression, Cuddy, that I would quit in 3 weeks. You understand that? Like I started the second 3 weeks on the floor, and I'm like, I'm going to last 3 weeks because that's 6 paychecks. I can get a later model car and drive around and actually figure out what my life is about. And what's so funny about that, and this I can't really make this up. What I've noticed recently when doing podcasts and being interviewed about this a few times, I've been holding the dream of quitting in 3 weeks for 45 freaking years.
Next 3 weeks, I'll quit. Next 3 weeks, I'll quit. Brilliant.
I'll quit in 3 weeks from now. I should have it together. Like right now, I have this idea. About 3 weeks from now, this should be all put together, and I should be able to just drop everything and keep going. But somehow it hasn't worked out for 45 years. So here we go. I went back. I hated I liked that job, but I hated psychiatry. And I really did hate psychiatry at the time. My brother was already a psychiatrist. He's 14 years older than me. I had another brother 10 years older than me. They're both, I have that. They're both still here. And I knew that psychiatry was a possibility, but I really hated that when a psychiatrist was called on the unit, let's say Jimmy and Johnny got in a tussle or Tony's up too late at night, we'd call the psychiatrist. He'd come down from his call room to our unit, and he'd talk to the child for like 4 seconds, and then he'd talk to us for like 7 seconds, and he'd go in a nursing station and write some shit with his pen, and then we'd have to go retrieve the child and hold him down and fill him up with whatever injectable cocktail the doctor had written in order to chemically restrain him. And if he stayed in a stupor for the next 24 hours, we called it a success. There's something just ridiculous about that. And by the way, Cuddy, that shit's happening all day, every day, everywhere, still now. This is not like this is not 45 years ago. Some people think, oh, that's horrible that happened. No, it's not. It's not horrible. It's happened every day since then.
Yeah.
Like it's just what's so inside of those facilities. And I couldn't stand that. I found I loved my kids. I loved the people I was working with. And it was like, well, this is just barbaric. This is unacceptable. And, it's inexplicable and doesn't make, I can't really work with this. So I already know, because I don't know, I learned this when I was like 3, is that human connection is at the heart of all healing. And it's not a matter of actually medicating someone to a stupor for our convenience in order to, in any way, affect them in a positive direction. So because of that, I decided that I could go into psychiatry now and actually bring what I know and maybe stop the tide, stop the tsunami, because, that was what's really here. And, stop the tsunami of where this thing was headed, because at the time it wasn't really already medicine based. There was stupor producing injections for sure. But it was a few years later in 1987 where the world really took a turn on its ear.
1997 or 87?
1987. Right. So in 1987, Prozac was introduced to the world. And Prozac shifted everything, 100%. Prozac was as important to the world as any particular virus you might be able to name in the last 5 years. Prozac was really, really, really important to the world. The idea was that Prozac was the panacea. Prozac was the chemical imbalance balancer. Prozac was the thing that could take depression supposedly and move it out of your system. And this thing was on the cover of Newsweek as a capsule and on the cover of Time as a capsule, all by itself. It was on the cover. You can find the green and white capsule of Prozac because it was actually being touted as the essentially as the next best thing, like the next best thing for the world. And there were very real questions and ideas and even plans to put this into the water of big cities like London or like New York or like Los Angeles and have it just flow through the entire population. There were books that were written that suggested this. And at the time, it seemed like, wow, maybe we've reached a real technological breakthrough here. At least you had to have your eyes open. Like maybe there's a real breakthrough. So when I came out of medical school, I was already, I went back to medical school while I was working with those children. 1/3 time. I know I had promised not to go back, but I went back one more time to finish my undergraduate degree and then go to medical school at a great medical school, supposedly in Chicago, Illinois, Northwestern University. And I was there for 4 years in downtown Chicago. I had a blast. Love Chicago. It's fantastic. I'm not sure about how much I love med school, but I definitely love Chicago. And so I graduated, and now I was being pushed out as I had a new typecast, basically. My job as a psychiatrist was now morphing into diagnosing people with particular diagnoses and then treating them with medications, which actually made the conditions worse. It's the stupidest job, and it was just never really made sense for me. Now, it's not the stupidest job. There's many people who swear that their contact with psychiatry is what saved their lives, and that they have the right diagnosis, they have the right treatment plan, they have the right medication regimen and all that. And that they wouldn't trade it for the world. And what I have to say to them, and there may be some listeners here right with us now who think that dude, don't talk bad about psychiatry. I love my psychiatrist. I love my medicines. I love my treatment plan. Is good for you. Like if you've actually reached a space where you wouldn't trade it for anything in any part of your world, like good for you. Like stay there. Like when you have reached a place where you're happy with how things are going, by all means, like, coddle that, embrace that, and be with that.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the tens of millions, or maybe it's hundreds of millions of people who are pretty sure that they're being mishandled, misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, overdiagnosed, mistreated, undertreated, overtreated, whatever they are. And these are the people who need to understand that diagnoses and medications are, in fact, although an option and somehow seen as the most conventional and likely to help option, they are not either of those things. And they absolutely frequently either increase, induce, perpetuate, or even cause the symptoms they're marketed to treat.
Yeah.
Now, I want to tell you something. I'm not really against medicine. I'm not really against the system. That's not really how it works. Medicine, how can you be against medicine? It's like being against, dirt or something. It's like, it's just a thing. There's nothing. It's just a thing. It's an object. It's a benign, unliving object. I'm not against medicine. What really is really interesting, and this is where we really start looking at, in 2006, I began to do something as a psychiatrist now, many years later, that was later seen as pretty radical. And I don't think it was very radical at all, but people tell me it was. And that was in 2006, I began to take some of my own clients off of medicine altogether and just see how they would do. And lo and behold, reliably and predictably, they got better, way better. And usually their diagnosis completely disappeared. Now, this was quite a finding that they no longer were depressed. They no longer were anxious. They no longer had racing thoughts. They no longer were distracted. They had whatever it was that we thought we were treating now no longer existed off of medicine. So the idea is that, in fact, these medicines were inducing, causing, perpetuating, or increasing the symptoms was really important to me. And I wanted to scream that from the mountaintops. I wanted to get violent about it. I wanted to say, it's got to stop. Don't treat your kids anymore. Just quit eating this poison. You do not have a diagnosis, whatever I was saying. But I later fairly quickly learned that being violent from the mountaintops doesn't get the message across. People just write you off as being a crazy fool or something like that. So I had to learn how to wash it down and be conversational and loving about it. And in order to do that, I had to look at it from a different perspective. Like, it's not the medicine's fault. It's not big pharma's fault. It's not the industry's fault. It's not your doctor's fault. It's not insurance fault. It's actually nobody's fault. Here's the deal. When you come into a psychiatrist knowing that there's something wrong with you, your psychiatrist needs to confirm that there's something wrong with you when, in fact, there may be nothing wrong with you. So it's entirely possible that there's nothing wrong with you, and the struggling and suffering and stumbling and bumbling and tumbling that you're doing through the world is called the human condition.
Yes! Preach,
that's
Dr.
it.
Fred.
That's all it really is. And if there's nothing wrong with you, then you don't even need to come to a psychiatrist to get fixed. You see, in a moment, psychiatrists are trained. Nothing wrong with it, by the way. You say a few different things. I hear the one thing. I hear racing thoughts. I hear impending doom. I hear depression for, crying spells. I hear panic attack. I hear whatever word I hear out of your mouth, and I'm triggered to actually start that treatment protocol. That's all that really is.
Bias.
It's an absolute bias, and there's a paved road waiting for both of us. And once I give you that diagnosis, now you believe you have it.
Identity.
For sure. And here's the thing. A diagnosis is so twisted in so many different ways.
Take a breath. Dr. Fred, take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Because I only asked you one question. Who are you? What you doing? Where you from? That was it. Pause. Take a pause.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
That was fascinating. Absolutely amazing. Now, when you say, I thought it was quite a radical thing to do. Kind of sounds like, so I come from a place that no one's broken, no one needs fixing. Yes, racing thoughts, and yes, mental illness is completely different to mental health. So we're in the same wheelhouse, Dr. Fred. That's absolutely fantastic. Perfect. Now, the diagnosis, there is how many, because you actually touched on it, kids just get off eating shite, eating the bad foods, and you might find that you might not be as loony, whatever the term is, something's wrong with you, I need to go and see a psychiatrist so I can get a diagnosis. In America, what's the misdiagnosis rate for anxiety,
100%,
stress, depression?
100%.
It's a bold statement. It's a bold statement, Dr. Fred.
No, it isn't.
What facts do you have to back that up? Because that's a great...
If there's nothing wrong with you, then you don't have a diagnosis. Your diagnosis is Cuddy Cudworth. That's it. That's it. That's your diagnosis, period. End of story. If anyone calls you anything that's an alphabet soup, major depression, bipolar disorder, attention deficit disorders, social anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, autistic spectrum disorder, they're full of shit. You don't have it, and they don't know that you have it. There is no diagnosis like that. The diagnosis is a made-up story. It's a made-up story that has bias. It has, you know, if the prevailing conversation supports the essence of a diagnosis, then you and they will believe that you have it. You see,
identity.
It's an identity. If you come into a doctor and you tell them you have this symptom profile that looks like this, let's say you say, you know, I'm turning a little bit gray at times. I'm kind of ashen. I got way too big a nose. I drink too much water. I eat too many peanuts. And I'm a mess in a china shop. The doctor will take out his paper, take out his compendium, take a look. I got it. You're an elephant.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, that explains everything. I'm an elephant. I can't wait to be an elephant. At least I'm now not responsible for being a bull in a china shop.
Right. So, Dr. Fred, how many Dr. Freds are there in America right now?
Not very many.
No, there's not, is there?
No, there's a few. I'm friends with a few. There's some pretty cool doctors out there. And there's a few that I resonate with. But, you know, I love Gabor Mate. I just love him. He's freaking great. I just adore him. And it isn't 100%. I'm not 100% aligned with him, by the way. I'm like 92% aligned with him, which is a very high number. You know, Daniel Amen does what he does. I'm, you know, fairly aligned with what he's up to. Not so much, a little bit less so than Gabor. You know, and there's other people who, look, you can't really be me and be in psychiatry, because by now I would have left. If anyone else,
to be fair, you've only got 3 weeks left. You've only got 3 more paychecks left.
I've only got 3 more. That's exactly true. Good point. I will get the F out of here in about 3 weeks for sure, because this is too tiring. I can't keep doing this. 45 years is enough, bro.
Do you not? Right. So this is a fascinating conversation. For anybody watching this, Dr. Fred is a professional in America. I've been on that path and journey of. I understand the power of identity, which is every time you say, well, if someone's got a diagnosis, that becomes part of who you are. And you rattled off every one of the labels. We say, you know, labels.
You know what's interesting? Let me just say something about the elephant, because I think it's an important add-on. Once you know that you're an elephant, when you walk out of that doctor's office, you're looking for circuses and chains, because you already know what an elephant is.
Where have you been hiding, Dr. Fred? Your team did a really good job, by the way, to get you onto this podcast. Your team did a very good job, by the way.
Thank you.
Pat them on the back, because this is, and especially when it comes to the bias. So I've said this many a time, and I love the fact that you said that I'm not bashing Big Pharma. No, not in any way.
Not at all. No, not at all, bro. Absolutely. Not at all. They're doing what they do.
There's aspects to pharma that lacks integrity. I get that, sure, but I'm not sat here saying we're all against Big Pharma. Not in any way whatsoever. If I got leukemia tomorrow, I could be on meds for it and things like that. So I'm not against Big Pharma in any way whatsoever. But
that's questionable too, by the way. But that's a whole different podcast.
That, like I said, this is going to be one of quite a few, Dr. Fred. I can definitely tell for that. That's amazing. So now, people are coming to you as they do. I'm a mind management coach in the UK. I genuinely put out into the world, you're not broken, you don't need fixing. I'm not in the medical space to be able to say that diagnosis is incorrect, but I do say, let's look for an outcome you don't think you can get. Let's get that outcome. Oh, well, I can't do this. Why can't you do this? Well, because I have. Second, tell me what you have. Oh, I have social anxiety, or I have crushing confidence, or PTSD, or CPTSD. I'm like, okay, right now I know the label we're working with. Tell me what you can't do. Well, I can't walk across the road without. Perfect. Let's work through that. That's what we do. That's kind of what I do as a mind management coach. People come to me for solutions. That's what the podcast is about. Dr. Fred, I'm sure. How are you finding being able? Because you said I want to stand at the mountain, be as angry as possible about it, and shout, but people don't want to listen to the anger. So you've come down from the mountain and you've started spreading this actually quite positive word. What's the backlash that you have for spreading this message?
No backlash. I don't have very significant backlash. People ask me about it. I think the only backlash is that the industry is not violently against me in any real way. Just the idea that some people still believe. You see, they don't believe it either. Here's the thing. Once you start prescribing these medicines, my explanation for how they work is way better than anything that they have ever thought about it. It's no way that the antidepressants are actually helping your clients, because they're not. Your clients are getting worse, let's just face it. And there's no way that antipsychotics are helping your clients either, because they remain totally psychotic because these medicines cause psychosis. So that's not happening either. There's no way that your anxiety patients are getting better. All of them are having worsening panic attacks because the benzodiazepines actually create panic attacks. No kidding. Like, if you want to give a monkey a panic attack, try giving it some Xanax and it will have a panic attack for you. This is really just the way these medicines work. So, and it isn't about the medicine. You see, ultimately, let's go back to where the only places that we can make a decision to disrupt this cycle. The only place that we can make a decision to disrupt this cycle is on the initial visit. If you come into my office pretty sure that there's something wrong with you, now the ball has already started, because all I have to do is be professional and persuasive enough to drop an alphabet soup diagnosis on your lap that have you agree that probably does explain the stuff that you're not happy about in your life. So, you yelled at your wife. That's not me. That's my bipolar disorder. Or you were late in your presentation. That's not me. That's my attention deficit disorder. Or you were awkward in a social environment. That's not me. That's my social anxiety. Or you have poor memories of a car accident or a loss or a death that you were involved in. That's not me. That's my post-traumatic stress disorder. So we get to relinquish responsibility for our lives by calling it a diagnosis. Now, I really do mean, look, if I could give you credit for the mistakes I've already made today, I would do that in a second. It's on Cuddy. I didn't do this. The problem I had with what I spat out to my roommate this morning has nothing to do with me. Go ask Cuddy. He's the one who caused it. I can write this off to a diagnosis, which then relieves me of being responsible for the things in my life that I'm not proud of. And it's not like it's cheating or lying. It's
so what human accountability.
It's human. We don't really like to take responsibility for the things we're not proud of.
So, do you think we are creating more victims?
That's kind of a loaded question. I don't know that that's happening exactly. I don't think we're creating victims. We're just giving them a place to sit in the triad between victim and perpetrator and observer. I don't think we're creating some. We're just giving them a warm seat.
That's a fascinating answer, by the way. I've asked that question in the past. I didn't want it to be a loaded question. I didn't mean for it to be loaded.
No problem.
But I do, as I go through life, and I'm 47 now, and seeing people from such a young age getting into therapy. Oh, there must be something wrong with them. Why? Because they're angry. They're angry, and let's find out why they're angry before we start taking them for therapy. So I hear that, and so I have asked the question in the past. Do you think we're creating more victims? A couple of answers have been as well, if we have victims, they're more malleable. Let's be honest, that the victim mindset is more malleable. We incense the fear, we create more fear, then we have bigger diversion. We have a diversion with people and a separation of self and things like that. So fascinating answer. Thank you. Fred. I think that was an amazing answer. I really appreciate that. And especially talking about the triangle. What's the name of the triangle again?
I don't know what the name is, but it's the victim, perpetrator, observer triangle, and it has different names. Yeah.
So I've been watching, and the reason I'm asking this is I know the power of
rescuer, by the way. It's victim, perpetrator, and rescuer are the three. Yes. Sorry about that.
No, absolutely fantastic. So you've been a psychiatrist for such a long time. How long ago did you start going, stop the bus, this is not right, we need to look at this differently? What was the tip?
Dude, I went into the field because I couldn't stand it. I'm not joking. I know. That really did happen.
So you're a disruptor.
I guess other people have said that. I don't know that I'm a disruptor. I didn't really. Maybe I'll be. So
if I was to diagnose you, I would say that's a very ADHD thing.
Yeah, I think that the idea is that I have this. I was a born healer. I told you about my brothers. I had a brother 14 years older than me and another brother 10 years older than me. And I was born into a family in chaos and disarray, as you can imagine, with a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old boy inside of young parents. The four of them weren't getting along. There was lots of chaos and disarray and, conflict in the home. And little Freddie was born into this world to fix that, to actually bring love and peace and joy and purpose into a world that was in that level. I really became the person. Like, I really saw that I could make a difference by just understanding everybody. Here I now had 4 adult viewpoints of how life was going, and they would land on me. From my little playpen, I could see them talking or hear whatever I hear, understand whatever I understood, give everybody the credit where credit was due. And this is what led for me to be a listener, to be somebody who could help people. People always flocked to me in high school. I was, they want to talk to me about their problems with girls or drugs or school or parents or whatever they had. And I was good at that. So, but you see, even then, I didn't know I was going into psychiatry. I kind of knew that someday maybe I would possibly be a doctor. I kind of somehow knew that. I don't know how I knew that, but it drove me. And, when I started in Ann Arbor, the first time around, it was literally as an engineer. And then the second time around, it was literally in computer science. And neither of those things weren't going to work. And until my mom told me that I had to get a job, I wasn't on the way into mental health until she brought me that application for the state hospital. And that's how that went. And, from that point forward, I didn't want to be there on the 4th week either.
I know. I get that. I heard you.
Yeah.
So what has kept you in psychiatry or reverse psychiatry? Yeah, to be fair, you're not looking for a diagnosis.
I'm a doctor.
You're looking to get people living life on their terms.
So it's a unique position, and it's pretty powerful. One of the things I realized just a week or two ago was that there's never been a client who has come to a psychiatrist hoping to learn that they never should go to a psychiatrist. And that's what the people are learning from me. And that's like a pretty interesting process. So the idea is that once what is the answer starts being the question. And the answer is inside of this world of human connection. The answer is resonating harmonically with another person like you and I are trying to do. You see joy emanating from this conversation because the two of us are aligned enough to be able to be two humans dancing a dance together.
Yeah.
This is healing much more impressively, much more thoroughly and comprehensively than any kind of diagnosis/medication regimen. This is healing.
So, Dr. Fred Moss.
Yes, sir.
How are you positioned on being in therapy for years?
What is that question? Please be more specific.
So, there is in certain therapy, going to see a therapist, you go and talk to your therapist an awful lot and just keep talking about the problems, and the therapist just stands there and nods
right.
and goes, absolutely, I'll see you next week.
Yeah. So what are you really asking about this
So
phenomenon?
because I think I have to open up to the bias there. I think if you're still talking about your problems after 5 years of going to the same person,
Dude, that's way too long.
Maybe that person's not the person for you. Whereas I would come from a place of 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions tops. We're probably going to get to the root of the problem, pull it out, and let you live your life without a tablet.
Well, I don't care how often you talk to somebody. It doesn't matter to me. It's all good. It's nothing. There's nothing there's nothing like dangerous about talking to somebody. However, their job for sure is to perpetuate their job. It is not, the only way that they have clients. Like I've had jobs where my effectiveness is measured by, by my what's it called?
Prescription rates.
What is it called?
Prescription rates.
Not prescription rate. Retention.
Yeah, retention.
Like retention. Like that they made future appointments with me. That would mean that I'm successful. Ooh. So that's the way the system works. The system works, and look, you can't even blame the therapists or the doctors. It's just the way that it is. Like if you like me enough, you'll come back. If I'm effective, you'll come back, is with the thought, rather than the idea that I actually can show you the pathway to naturally heal this concern you have that you have written off as being a condition. It's not a condition. You know what your condition is? You do have a condition. You're the human condition. It's hard being a freaking human. It's hard being a human. You better know it. It is hard being a human. You're going to get tripped up every single day. You're going to be confused every day. You're going to be angry every day. You're going to be afraid every day. You're going to be sad every day. You're going to be aimless every day. You're not going to know what the hell's going on every single day. That's what's happening. So that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Even if you think that everyone else has their shit together and you don't, that doesn't make you any different than anybody else either.
No, because they don't. None of us have a shit together.
Not at all. How can you have your shit together?
No.
How can you? There's no manual. There's no shit together way to be.
Yeah. Doctor, fantastic. This is. Thank you for. Please thank your team for finding us. By the way.
Yeah, my pleasure. Joanne, just reach out to Joanne. You can thank her, give her a big hug for us.
Absolutely. This is, and I know that we're going to be kind of short for time today because I know you've got something to deal with. So we might have this as an introduction to more chats and conversations. Yeah. That's okay with you, Dr. Fred.
Sure.
So, why is somebody going to come and see you on Monday morning? Why have they found you? What are they looking for? And what's going to be the outcome of working with Fred?
Yeah. So if someone hasn't seen me before, by now they usually have vetted me out. But if they haven't vetted me and they haven't seen me before, and I have still a conventional job that I'm hanging on to, like gum on the bottom of my shoe, the idea is that they'll come to me wanting me to either already medicate them with the medications that they're already on, or to diagnose them and let them know what's wrong with the fact that they haven't met their deadlines at work, or that their wife is wanting to break up with them, or that they're drinking too much, or that they don't get along with their mom, or some sort of something. They have something going on that is very disturbing and has them be uncomfortable. And they have made the translation that if I'm uncomfortable, there's something wrong with me. That is not a proper translation.
No.
If you are uncomfortable, welcome to humanity. That's the name of my brand, by the way, and that's how it fits in. I'm Dr. Fred at welcometohumanity.net, and that's what that's really about. We don't blame a log for burning in the fire. It's not the log's fault that the fire scorched it. Life is hard and scorching. It is not simple to put together even a day, let alone a minute in this world. So recognizing that being uncomfortable is an exquisite part of life. Not only is it a part of life, it's actually magical. There's so much that we learn from the discomfort of, we call these things psychiatric, like we call depression psychiatric, or anxiety psychiatric, or sleeplessness psychiatric, or awkwardness, or distractibility or anger or fear. We call all those things psychiatric. But what they're not, they're just human experiences. And when we come to a psychiatrist, what we can be sure of more often than not is a psychiatrist will put a stamp, a label on that and say, yep, you got this disorder that we've already designed waiting for you. And we have a treatment protocol that includes this level of therapy or this level of medication. This is what we do when someone like you shows up in our office. So please accept it or we'll call you non-compliant. And if you start doing this, we can be certain that the best you can hope for is to so-called contain it. More than likely, it'll appear that we're slowing down the deterioration that otherwise would take place, but we'll never have an A/B testing of that. So in fact, you're getting worse when in fact we could have healed you. But psychiatry is not based on healing. If you look at any of psychiatry, there is nowhere in psychiatry that says that if you have this condition, we can make it that you never have it again. No, it does not say that. Ever. All it really hoped for is so-called containment or slowing down slowing down the deterioration. But the truth is, psychiatry is a field based on rather arbitrary boundaries of what a diagnosis is, and then based on cold boundaries of the medication and treatment regimens that are associated with these made-up diagnoses, which then very clearly induce, increase, perpetuate, or cause the symptoms are marketed to treat such that a perpetual patient is created. Now, when you get a perpetual patient, that you all of a sudden are doing pretty well on your retention rates, and you're doing well in your bank book. And you know what? You're not doing anything wrong. That's really important to get. These therapists and these doctors are not inside of their own bubble. They're doing what they're taught. They're great. They're wonderful. They can live next door. They can take care of my cats. It's all good. I love them. It's not a problem that they're evil people.
No.
Not at all. These are good people doing what they think they're doing that they think is right and helping people get better. It's really true. Most of the people in the field really believe that that's what they're doing with their job. It's only when you look at the meta level of the way the system works do you start seeing what's really going on and where the splits are, where adjacent disciplines are actually causing damage with neither of them alone causing any damages.
Yeah. Wow. Where have you been hiding all this time?
Dude, I'm not hiding. I'm right here. I've
Where
been with me for 67 years.
Where are you based? You are on...
I'm in Grass Valley, California.
California, right. And in California, do you do online sessions as well?
What's that?
Do you do online?
Yeah. Most of my work's online these days. My coaching work. So if any of your clients wanted to talk to me, I don't do. I actually have been teaching online psychiatry since 2013. I had a school that I had that was teaching something called Mastering Telehealth. And that was, of course, long before it became the gold standard. I could tell that it was going to be something big. It was very clear that psychiatry and computers were going to meet elsewhere than just whether I should go back to school or not. And the idea is that, I'd be glad I talk to people and I coach them. And I look, there's different people who come see me for coaching. Coaching is outside the bounds of being a psychiatrist. What is a psychiatrist? I have a piece of paper that says that I can do something called give you medicine, or I can do something called give you a diagnosis. But if I choose not to diagnose you and not to medicate you and just to have powerful conversations with you, that's something I can teach other people to do as well. Yeah. And no longer is using my psychiatric license. It's instead just a conversation between two citizens, two human beings, two Earth citizens, I'm saying. So let's say there was someone in UK who wanted some help in stabilizing their life or in realizing that a harmonic resonance of a human connection is what's really here in order to heal whatever condition you think you have. Like, no kidding, it's so much more effective than any kind of diagnosis or medication that we could possibly offer you anywhere. Like, if you wanted to learn how to get that done for yourself or for a loved one or for like a colleague or something like that, we can have discussions about that. And so, yeah, of course I do it online. I'm not coming out to Scotland to meet your buddies. Not right away, anyways.
Well, if you do come to Scotland, you have to come for a dip, because I take everybody, when people visit me from the podcast, when they come to Scotland, I take them into cold water and we go and dip in the Forth.
Oh, I love it. A dip sounds fantastic. I'm all down with that. I took a cold shower less than an hour ago, so I'm pretty down with that.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Look, you've been absolutely amazing guest, and I know that we are tight for time, so I'm actually going to start wrapping this up. But I know this is going to be level one of the 7 levels of us talking.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to your team for coming on. I will have everything. Look, I'm a big believer if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And if there's anything that people are out there looking for an answer, this podcast would definitely have it, especially with all the labels that we rattled off in that short amount of time. There is sometimes that, and I have a slight bias. I think if there's a label that needs a tablet, I would question the label or the diagnosis. But that's just a me thing, and I always want to make sure I share that that's a me thing. The label that's been placed in between. I think the facts in the UK, Dr. Fred, are it's something like 86% of most illnesses have been misdiagnosed, and something like 92 to 96% of bipolar is misdiagnosed. And that's an extremely high number. According to Dr. Fred, it's 100%, but there's 100%. No actual facts behind that. That was a great comment from Dr. Fred.
No, it's really that is the facts, actually.
I love it. There we go. There's a bold statement. That is a fact, 100%. Dr. Fred, is there anything else you would like to share before we wrap up?
Well, once we, I am creating a community. I'm creating a Mighty Networks community. So welcome to humanity.mightynetworks.com or welcome to humanity.mn.co is a great place for people to come so that we can actually get together and talk about how to handle this chaos-driven, obstacle-ridden, hurdle filled life that we have here, the challenges of what it means to be human and how to stay good in a society that is asking us to not stay good anymore. So we can actually do that. We can actually do that together. And community is where the way that we can do that. Yeah. So the Mighty Networks community is that. And then the speaking engagements, I'm taking some stages around the world these days, starting to actually speak the knowledge and wisdom or truth of what's really here, like Welcome to Humanity for real. And also, I'm helping people with finding financial literacy and financial stability. That's an offshoot that is really important. Again, the effectiveness of realizing that your money is steady and that we can protect you from loss and you can create generational wealth is very interesting to me. And that level of it, when I was looking back in the day, how can I help people? I wish I would have learned this one, because when we stabilize people's financial systems, all of a sudden we get somebody who's truly so much goes away so much depression, anxiety, and concern goes away when their money is actually steady. So I help people with that as well. And, I think, people say, is there one thing you want to get to my listeners? And I think the one thing, and it reverberating to the end of this conversation, is really there might be nothing wrong with you. Really.
You're just human.
You're just human. And thank God you're human. And man, this shit's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying you're not sad or uncomfortable. I'm not even saying you're not miserable. You can be there's lots of reasons to be like dead on miserable. You can choose to do that if you want, but you might be able to get that there's nothing actually. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. Get good, get better. No. There's nothing wrong with you, because this is the human experience exactly as it is.
Yeah. I'm going to look for the community myself. I don't know if your team wanted you on the podcast or they wanted me in your community. I've got a feeling there might be two ways on that one, to be fair.
Right.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. If it's in the mind, it can be managed. And as always, big love from Cuddy, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Mind Management Mentor.
Thanks, Cuddy.